Well, today we got a couple of unique problems to work around. Number one, last night it went down into the teens, and that means our pipes were in jeopardy of freezing in the house. And I have learned to live with the fact that I have to monitor that anytime it goes below 20 degrees, but it also means I spend a couple of times come out into the garage and flip the battery chargers and check that none of my batteries are on flashing red or whatever. Or to set the house on fire here. So in this temperature, and I just thought I'd put this on the video as something I do, when it's above freezing, I change the battery once a day. When it's this time, I'll change them twice or 3 times a day. So what I have is one charger for 3 motorcycles, and I'll just come out at lunchtime. Once it's on green, put it on that, and just before I go to bed, so each bike will be cycled through. Now, I don't know how good that works, but it's certainly not going to hurt anything. So part of the things I thought I'd put on today's video is how to deal with, or how I deal with, when it gets really cold like this. And that day, we really have the first really cold day of winter here. So I thought I'd mention another thing. Last night, I'm watching House of Color, and they're professional, really custom car painters. Beautiful stuff, by the way. But the guy emphasized over and over again, never to paint when it's below 70 degrees in your shop. And I was wondering, that'd probably put me out of business. So I don't know the technology, of course I'm not, and I don't pretend to know that what's going to happen. This paint has been painted basically when between 30 and 40 degrees. I don't know, you can be the judge of whether you think it's a good job or not. Virtually all of my custom restorations were done in the middle of the winter when it's freezing cold. And definitely at no part in any of these jobs does it ever get, at 70 degrees I'm riding a motorcycle, so I don't know. I'll leave it at that. Check out some of the House of Color videos. They are interesting and they do make a good product, that's for sure. But I'm forced, like a cook that doesn't have a Viking refrigerator, I'm forced to put the stuff out on a porch when it's cold. I don't know if that's a good analogy. So another thing I have to deal with every morning, this is the ice that I chop off the pond. I try to keep a big hole in it, but as this ice gets thicker and thicker, this gets to be a more labor-intensive job, that's for sure. I love the sound of ice hitting the bricks. Anyway, learning to deal with this cold is it's a challenge. So I got to connect with Steve. He wants to sand this down, and we try to get some more clear on it. Obviously, when it's below freezing, I'm going to try never to paint, just because it's so uncomfortable out there. And if you look back over the channel, you'll notice many times I have been forced to paint when it's snowing outside or whatever. Really cold anyway. But it's not, the overall point is, it's not that you can't do it, it just makes it inconvenient. It's really not the most fun in the world. But I'm sure, I would love to know. I look at these professional painters that have spray booths and climate controls and everything, and I wonder, yeah, maybe there's something to be said for that. But I'm not unhappy with the way my parts are coming out here, especially on this job, and especially on Steve's job. I'm not sure you could make the finish a lot better than that, unless you really get into the big dollars. So, and that's what we always try to do, is make it practical and fun, and that you can do it yourself, and the result is probably almost as good as the people that have the big dollars. So after looking around and thinking about everything today, and I have a limited time because Miles is going to be our guest of honor here today in Legoland, what I thought is I could at least get the tank sanded down. That would fit into the time window that I have available right now. And this is drying up by the heating vent. I actually have 2 choices. I could spend time buffing this, or I could sand this. So I try to lay out, even though the day is super cold, this way I can be in the house the most of the day. But if I get one of, well, I think I'll do the tank today. I'll make a big corporate decision. At this point, we're going to use Mirka 1200. Now, as I try to take the available time window I have and use it to the best of my ability here, I realize if I don't get the tank done today, it'll be fine, because even if I got it done, I'm not going to be able to paint it today. So this way, I'm prone to take my time and do the best job possible, not rush it through like you know. I don't know what the answer is, but I know there are times I've been under pressure at the end of the winter to get something done or finished, and I haven't enjoyed it as much as a day like today, when I can just enjoy the sanding. Now this is going to sand out beautifully. That paint's been sitting there probably for at least a week, so it should be a piece of cake. That is another good point. When you're painting a car, it's totally different than painting a motorcycle. It just is. When I look at them, how they paint cars, I think, yeah, I don't even know if I could paint a car. But I know that when you're able to take something apart into smaller pieces and bring it into your shop, your house, it's just a lot easier. And for me, that's an important part of, I'm not doing this with a profit motive. I'm doing it with I want to enjoy it motive. And I want to do the best quality I can, and if you try to rush things, it never works out. Now another example of that is, and I was watching this again on some of the professional videos, they paint, they let it dry for 10 minutes, then they put the next coat on, 4 minutes for this, 8 minutes for this, and put 30% thinner in a gun and something. They have a formula for everything. Now, I'll be honest, I don't have a formula for everything. What I have is I just do little tests and constantly changing the routine that I use to paint, because I'm always working around the weather, and today is just a perfect example of trying to get things done while it's below freezing out there. And I think I'll be able to get a lot of production done today, but the first thing, I have to have another cup of coffee. I already had one, and that'll get me motivated. Now, I thought I'd mention this. This is kind of a neat thing. I always like to, when I find something really inexpensive that works perfect. I wanted to show this up close and personal. Of course, it's a mat that you use where you work, and it's got some kind of really stiff foam on it. It's got nice treads. This was $16 for a 4x8 sheet of this material. Now, in the past, I had thought about doing by the drill press and a spray gun with this. Now, what's nice about this is it's nice and cushiony for your feet. It really is nice and cushiony. So what I did, I bought one piece to see if I like it. I got it from a place called Amazing Savings. It's $16 for a 4x8 sheet. And if I liked it so much the first day I had it, I may get 4 or 5 more of these and put them out in the shop area. I also thought another thing this would be perfect for, if you have a cement floor garage, it's just about big enough to put your motorcycle on, and when you kneel on it to clean underneath, or you want to polish something or do something or whatever, I think that'd just be a great $16 investment. So as I start this sand out, I'm just kind of thinking that every time and believe me, I do watch a lot of YouTube videos because I'm always looking to learn something. That everybody that works on paint seems to be like, and I've said it before, like chefs, cooks, whatever they are. The point is, everybody's got some little technique they use, and I was watching a video where the guy showed how to fold sandpaper and how to use sandpaper on, and how never to do the edge of the hood, and you know, different things. There's always something to learn. That's what I find challenging about this. Now, in this case, what I've really confirmed in my mind this year, last year I had it in my mind, the year before, but I've never really confirmed it by doing a test, is that in my shop conditions, which are unique, it's cold, we put things up by the heating vent after 24 hours. What really happens here is this paint takes a few days to get fully hard to where I can do what I'm doing now, it's sand it out. And it's like being a cook. If I lived in a warm weather climate, I put this out in a 72-degree garage overnight, it'd be ready to go in the morning. And they tell you right on a 5-star thing, you can buff it in 90 minutes or something. But if you live in New Jersey, that's not true. See? So the thing is, if you take your own shop conditions and you can kind of interpolate that, I think that's good information. That's information worth knowing if you want to paint things. But it is interesting to me. It's like when you're a chef or a cook. So let's say you're an Italian chef, an Italian cook, and you look at a guy that's doing Indian cooking, there's always something to learn. Anyway, I'm going to spend, and there's no point letting the camera just run on and on here. I've got maybe 2 hours of sanding altogether. I'm going to take my time, take another coffee break about an hour from now. I want this all sanded out. And if I can get that done today, then this day has been put to good use. And if you never know, the things that happen in my life, the interruptions, mostly good, sometimes bad. You never know. That's what makes life interesting. If you knew ahead of time, maybe it wouldn't be so much fun. Anyway, but I really will take my time and detail out this tank. This is one of the things, will be the focal point when you look at the motorcycle, the first thing you'll see. And I will not take a chance rushing this through when it's 19 degrees outside, that's for sure. It'd just be too uncomfortable. Anyway, I want to show one little spot. The paint is already hardened up. The little dust spots and little, they call them nubs in the body shop world. They'll sand right out. 1200 is usually easy as pie when you do a 1200 sand out. Now I can move on, segment it out to here, divide this up like the map of the United States. A couple hours from now, this whole thing will be sanded out. So one thing I thought worth mentioning here, a job like this, for me it's a couple hours, maybe 2 or 3 hours, doesn't matter. It's what I did by sanding the stripe down, and I cannot feel it. I'm trying to always make sure I can't feel it. The decals, not so much. I still can feel them a little bit, but I don't want to take a chance on going through. I don't want to sand this edge. And boy, I noticed right away on these body shop how to buff and sand things where professional people, I bet it breaks them crazy if they buff through right on a corner. They got to repaint the whole hood or something. In our case, it's a lot less work touching up. But what I thought I'd just share is how much of this I can do. And now I want to segment this out. I'll go up to about the decal, cut it in half, try to segment it out. But you can see there's a lot of orange peel up here. Well, I'm not sure why, probably just because of the cold. In fact, back here it's even worse. When you're sanding orange peel, I got a couple little tricks that seem to work. Let me share them. Now there's two completely different things happening here. I have a stripe, I can't feel it at all. And by the way, of course, I'll repeat because I do this all the time. Sometimes I forget to leave out a step that I'm sharing. The minute you don't feel it with your rubber glove, the minute you don't feel it, stop. Because you don't want to take a chance on breaking through. Now, it's a little bit different on a piece. Now, there's no striping here, but there's orange peel. For whatever reason, the temperature, or maybe it's just sloppy painting on my part. This is a good trick to do orange peel. I got my soft nail file. And by the way, this is another thing worth sharing. Pretend this is a big sheet of sandpaper. What body shop people do, they cut it in half and fold it 3 times. And that kind of conveniently fits on your hand. I've seen many people suggest doing that. Yeah. The problem is when you're painting a motorcycle, this might be the biggest part of sandpaper that I'll use. I'll get a brand new piece here, in fact. But I use it a different way. Now, when I have my little, and this is important, especially on orange peel. If you were to take this sandpaper and you hold your finger in the same spot and just keep sanding, what you do is you wear out one little piece of the sandpaper. Now you turn it and you wear this out. You turn it, you wear that out. Well, when you have your little soft sanding stick, and that can be wet, these are made to be wet, what you can do is you actually get that, pretend it's a clock. Because you're really only wearing out the very tip of it. So, let me just make this, do one little spot. I know I want to make like that map of the United States. I want to cut out a piece. I want to avoid that. There's an edge going around here. I want to avoid the edge. Even though I can touch this up with an airbrush relatively easy, it's so much nicer if you don't have to touch it up. That's the whole point. And the whole point is these soft nail files, if you get used to using them, and I can picture the modelers, and an awful lot of the people that subscribe to the videos I know are modelers or ex-modelers, and you're always looking at getting an edge or a corner or a something. These things are worth their weight in gold, and they're waterproof, and they're soft, and for some reason they're really good at doing this. They're really good at doing orange peel. Now, not so good about going over this because it just doesn't, there isn't the big benefit there is when you're trying to sand an orange peel surface. So if I do this, here's another thing. When Steve was here in the very beginning and he was doing this, I think he was making it hard because what he was doing, he didn't wipe the part down enough. And what happens, it's like all the Glock just drips off the part. And I change the towel underneath it very often just because I don't want to contaminate anything. And because they just go right in the laundry anyway. But if you every once in a while you just go through here, the orange peel's gone. So now I'll move on. I've got this little piece. I'll do another little piece. And I'll do maybe up to the Yamaha. You can customize that according to the part itself. But this is a very useful tool, no doubt about it. So I wanted to show the progression on this. This is totally done. I'm not getting too cute around the decals because I don't want to tear that edge. I can still see just an edge there. And since we're going to put more clear on that, this is all done now. And now this part here, I have a stripe to deal with. So what I'll try to do is do the bottom and then do the top as a separate thing. Avoid this sharp spot here. It's just like I always use the example, the map of the United States or the map of Czechoslovakia or something. Divide it up. If you try to do the whole thing at once, it's just too overwhelming. And when I do it this way, it seems to go a lot quicker than I think. I usually allocate my 4 hours of shop time, and I think I can do about 2 hours of sanding before my arm gets tired, and I look at the clock and it's 3.5 hours. Now this is just one area where because this bends. See, in here I have this curve going this way. If I'm doing this with my finger, I'm just hitting one little spot. This soft nail file, just waterproof nail file, just bends with the curve. It just makes it a whole lot easier to do it, especially when we're going over the stripe. This is such a useful tool. If you got nothing else out of this video, go buy a couple of these and give them a try. Make sure they're the waterproof ones, by the way. And the soft ones. They do make hard ones. The soft one, I use it every day. Now we reached a halfway point. I've been a little conservative again on the decals. You can still see there's a little tiny shine area. Same up there. When I get the final clear on that, then I'll get a little more aggressive. But now what's nice to know is I have this half done, the middle, this section, and I can take a little break here, have a cup of coffee, come back and start on the other side. So I smell this wonderful smell coming out of the kitchen, and the lovely Mrs. Urtnowski is making, what is this?
Harvest pumpkin.
Harvest pumpkin soup. Wow. So after sanding for a couple hours, I'm really in a mood for some warm soup. Boy, did you hit this right on the head.
Smells great, doesn't it?
Yeah, oh, it smells better than paint.
That's for sure.
But then everything does. Okay. So after a giant bowl of that soup, I'm ready to tackle the other side. See, I always think when I come back down here that there'll be a mouse or a varmint or something that'll sand that other side, but you know, it never happens. Anyway, we're more than halfway done now. Now, I thought I'd mention another thing. I'm using 1200 Mirka sandpaper, and from having watching a lot of other people's videos that do similar work, a lot of them use 1000 grit. A lot of them use 1500. I don't think it matters at all. I have all of those grits. And I was thinking there'll be some future time. I'm not going to do it on this project, but you know, maybe I'll do it on a job that I'm just experimenting with. But I'll sand, I was thinking I'll sand one part with 1200, one part with 1000, one part with 1500, and paint it and see because you don't want to have, the idea of sanding too is you get a better mechanical bond between coats. Now another thing they were talking about that I just do it instinctively is when you put the coats on, there's some key time that you wait before you put the second coat on. And the way you tell if it's ready, you put your finger in it, a part you don't see. And when there's no string comes out, when your finger goes down and there's no string, that you put the second coat on. Well, I look at it and I can tell it like a cook that looks at the soup and knows there's not enough anchovies in it or something. I don't know. But everybody paints differently. I can only pass on things that I've developed and worked on in the last 50 years. Other people they're certainly smarter than I am, and they have more money to spend on paint and stuff. But I think the bottom line is we get some pretty nice work comes out of the shop. And to me, that's all that matters. And as I've said a million times, there's a lot of ways to achieve that level of finishing. There's a lot of ways. There's ways I haven't even thought of yet. But I know my way works under my shop conditions for me fairly well. So this side is going to be exactly the same. I'll start at the back, do another chunk. I want to be real careful along that bottom edge because you do see this whole bottom edge. And I have a feeling that I'm going to sand through because it's a 90-degree edge. I want to be real careful about blending this in because I purposely did all that Bondo work with the idea that at some point when this is assembled, you will see that bottom edge. And that's going to be, well, something I just have to be careful not to sand through. Now with both sides done now I have to really get fussy. I have to get my magnifiers on. I want to look for any spot that needs to be touched up. And there's always something that you don't see right away, but you look at it 10 minutes later and you see it. And no matter how careful I am, there's always one or two little spots. And I don't want to trade them away. I don't want to make it that for the rest of the time I'll be riding the bike, especially on top of the gas tank. So, oh my God, my glasses. See, without glasses, you're shot. Anyway, this would be a small thing, but I think it'll be worth doing. And all these jobs are just a question of how much time you want to put into the details. And the clear will instantly blend this right in. You'll never even see it. Well, that's the end of a really productive, well spent shop day. And we are ready to put some more clear on that whenever the weather is appropriate. Now the question is always the same. If the weather stays the same tomorrow, we have buffing, we have sanding, we have detailing. We always schedule so we have something to do no matter what the weather is. And that system has allowed me over the years to do a lot of restorations, have a lot of fun in doing them, and not spend a lot of money. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.